Hey, what's up there, roulette players? What's going on? I got a new system here. It's not a new system. I improved the Roulette Masters Smart Arrow. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add an arrow. We're going to add an arrow. All right, we're just adding an arrow and we're going to double every time. And we're going to do a ladder system. So in other words, if we increase the bet, we're going to bring it down 1 unit. We're going to bring it down not 1 unit, but one double. All right, so we're going to spin. That's an 8 black. All right, that's a $9 win right off the bat. That's awesome. Rebet and spin. And we're going to increase on losses, 29 black. But you're going to see there's going to be a lot of, wow, that's another win right off the bat. That's great. But that doesn't normally happen, but that's great. There's usually a lot of break-evens. In this game, there's a lot of break-evens. But that's what makes it a killer beast. All right, that's a break-even. Anything in the top column is going to be a break-even. Anything in the middle is either going to be a win or a break-even. And anything on the bottom is either going to be a break-even or a loss. And of course, the double zeros are going to be losses. All right, so let's go ahead and bet and spin. That's a 25 red. That's our first loss. So what we're going to do is we're going to rebet. We're going to double. And this is a $2,000 bankroll system. That's a 27 red. That's a break even. This is what makes it a comp beast, is all the break evens, and us going up increases our seed. There's another break even. So we'll be going a long time on 18. So that's $18 a spin. So that's where I find that. All right, that's where I find that that's very useful, and that 36 was a break even. So we're just going to rebet and spin. That's a 21 red. So that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 29 black. That's a $18 win. So now we're going to go back to base here, only because that's where we are. But if it was a ladder, we would have went down 1 step, but we're going down 1, and it brings us back to base. That's a 25 red. All right, that's our second loss. So we're going to rebet. We're going to double, and we're going to spin. That's a 27 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. I'm going to play this for an hour and see how it pans out. I tested this before and it was very well. All right, that's another 0. So we're going to rebet and spin. I did very well with this system. All right, that's a 34 red. That's going to be another loss, so we're going to rebet and double. We're going to for the first time, we're going to see the ladder once we hit a jackpot. That's a 21 red. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. Now we're betting on $36. This is $36 average spin. So this is where you win. This is where you get some good comps. All right, we're going to rebet and spin at 36 again. That's an 11. That should be a win. Oh, it's a break even. That's fine. Rebet and spin. That's a 26 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. Now we're averaging 36 bucks a spin. That's a 12 red. That's a 0. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. I know there's only 6 numbers you can win on, but you know, it's fun because you get to play for a long period of time. Rebet and spin. I like sitting at the roulette table for long periods of time. It's a 28 black. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 4 black. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 14 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. I know a lot of people don't like playing for a long period of time and not going anywhere, but that's up to you. This system is for you if you like to stay around the roulette table for a long period of time and just collect comps. That's a 7 red. I mean, $36 a spin. I think that would give you some pretty good comp credits. Not to mention everything else we already did. That's a 36 red. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. And as long as you're not losing money, and every time you increase the bet, you're going to bring it back when you hit a jackpot. Just so you know, you'll bring everything back in one shot. And we're going to still go down the ladder though. 23 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 3 red. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 32 red. That's finally a jackpot. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down the ladder 1. That'll bring us down to 18 and spin. Now we're up 36 units. That's a 2 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 21 red. That's a break even, so we're going to rebet and spin. That's a 14 red. All right, that's another break even, rebet and spin. Now our next win will be 18 units when we hit the jackpot. 23 red. It's a break even, rebet and spin. You can play a long time and gain lots of comp credits with this one. It's an 18, that's another break even, rebet and spin. Just got to stay away from those zeros and double zeros and a couple of numbers on the bottom. 23, all right, that's another break even, rebet and spin. All right, that's a 13 black. All right, that's another loss. Okay, so we're just going to rebet. We're going to double it and spin. Hopefully we hit a jackpot number before we hit another loss. Rebet and spin. And I'll take these $36 spins all day long, collecting my comp credits. That's a 14. That's a break even, rebet, and spin. 21 red. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 2 black. All right, that's another, so break even. So 36 units. Betting 36 units at a time. 18 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 1 red. All right, that's a loss. So we're going to rebet and we're going to double and we're going to spin. That's an 8 black. All right, that's a jackpot number. That's $72. So we're going to rebet and we're going to go down the ladder. Should bring us down to 36 and spin. Now we're up 54 units. Look at that. That's a 26 black. Now you can play it safer if you want. You can go all the way back down to base after a hit. But if you want comps, this is the way you play it. All right, that's a 6 black. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. If you want comps, this is the way to play it. If you want to just play safe and save your bankroll, you go all the way back down to base and you'll be fine. Rebet and spin. I'm just trying to play as long as I can, and I want to make as much money as I can, and I want as much comps as I can get. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. I know there's only 6 numbers that you win, but hopefully those 6 numbers come out before we break our bankroll. But if you have a $2,000 bankroll, that's a good start. But I don't think you need $2,000, but we'll keep track of where we're at. I think you can get away with the $600 bankroll, maybe even less. But let's just test the system and see. But the more money you have in your bankroll, the better. All right, that's a 00 just for that reason alone. All right, so we're going to rebet and we're going to double and we're going to spin. And you can take this down to base level anytime you want. You don't have to keep going down the steps. If you feel like you want to just go down to be safe, that would be fine. I'm going to continue to do it this way just to show that, see if we can survive it. That's a 35. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. Next win would be a $72 win, which would take us up to $90. So that's why I'm saying, there you go. There it is, $90. Okay, that's why I said you could take it to base level anytime you like. You don't have to stay at this level. You don't have to stay at this level because you're already at 90 units. You could always go back to base. But 19, that's another push. Rebet and spin. But if you like comp credits, this is the way to play it. All right, that's a 6 black. All right, that's another push. Rebet and spin. That's a 15 black. All right, that's a rebet and spin. That's an 18 red. All right, that's rebet and spin. I'm probably going to take this one to the casino and try it out. I like this system. That's a 3 red. All right, that's another break even, rebet and spin. This is definitely great for comp credits. Build up your comp credits and you know, you can get some free slot play and things like that. Okay, so now we're gonna rebet, and now we're gonna double it because we just lost. Rebet and spin. Now we're doing 74 units per spin. That's a 1. That's a loss. Okay. All right, so we're gonna rebet. We're gonna double. Remember, if you're using a $2,000 bankroll system, you've got plenty of money in the bankroll. That's a 33 black. That's another push. Now you're betting 144 units. That's really, really good. That's a 6 black per spin. That's another break even. That's 3 spins at 144. I don't know how the comp credits work, but it's a comp beast if you're using a machine. All right, now it's getting a little scary. Okay, so now we're gonna rebet, we're gonna double, but it's not really scary because we're only down 162 units out of a $2,000 bankroll system. That's a 31 black. And now we're betting $288 a spin. That's great comps. It's a 2 black. All right, that's another push. Rebet and spin. The only thing is I don't know if they have a $500 maximum bet on the machines, but if they do, you could be in trouble here. So we're gonna rebet and spin. That's a 26 black. All right, that's another push. Rebet and spin. That's a 15 black. All right, that's another push. Rebet and spin. The comp credits are unbelievable right now. That's a 25 red. I think that's another loss. Okay, it is. So we're gonna rebet. And we're gonna double. See, I don't know if it's $500 maximum bet on those machines, but if it is, then you're in trouble. You can't bet this. But we're gonna say that the max is $2,000 on the machine. 29. That's a $576 win. That is awesome. So we're still down $162 though. All right, so that's why we go down the ladder. So that's exactly why we go down the ladder. All right, we're gonna bring this down to base. We're gonna spin. I'm gonna spin without betting because the stupid thing has technical issues. Okay, that's a 32 red. All right, so by us doing that, it cost us freaking a lot of money. All right, it cost me a lot of money because that would have been a win. Keep that in mind. That would have been a lot of money. That was a 32. That was a jackpot number. Man. We're going to go back down to base only because we can't go back to base. All right. That's a 7 red. All right, we're going to rebet and we're going to double, double, and double. All right, that's the most I can double, so let's rebet and spin. This video got really messed up because it cost me. It cost me big time. So now we're gonna rebet, we're gonna double, double, And that's where we should be at right now. And let's spin. That cost me, but we didn't lose anything. The only thing we lost was that jackpot, which it should have been a jackpot. All right, so we bet and spin, so I should be up money right now. That's a 0-0, that's no good. So we're gonna rebet, double, spin. Yeah, we should have been way up. All right, that's a 10 black. All right, that's a rebet and spin. Oh, that was a loss. Oh boy, 11. That's a push. So rebet. Where are we at? We're at 1,026. So we can double one last time, I think. And spin. It's a 5 red. I think that's a jackpot number. It is. Okay. So we're going to rebet and we're going to clear it out till we get to the $5.76 and spin. At this point, you might want to go all the way down the base. Yeah, I should have. But that's okay. That's why I'm playing the system. Rebet. And now we got double again. Let's spin. Got plenty of money in the bankroll. That's a 17. That's a jackpot number. Awesome. So we're going to rebet. And we're going to go down. We're going to go down to base level, actually. Let's go back down to base, just to play safe. Spin. Now we're up $700. Definitely want to go back to base. That's a 3 red. That's a push, rebet, and spin. Now's a good time to walk away. That's a 7. That's a push, rebet, and spin. But being that you're back to base level, I wouldn't worry about it too much. All right, that's a 19 red. All right, that's another push, rebet, and spin. All right, that's a 1 red. That's a loss. So we're going to rebet, and we're going to double and spin. That's an 8 black. All right, that's a jackpot win. So we're going to rebet, and we're going to bring it back down to base and spin. That's a 31 black. All right, that's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 10 black. That's a loss. All right, so we're going to rebet, and we're going to double and spin. That's a 3 red. All right, that's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 12 red. All right, that's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 2 black. That's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 26 black. All right, that's a push, rebet, rebet, and spin. That's a 35 black. That's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 9 red. That's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 13 black. Okay, rebet. $13 black, that was a loss, so we're going to double and spin. Remember, we were up $711. Let's see what happens if we get a jackpot at this level. Rebet and spin. $711. This is going to be a $36 win, so this would bring us up to, well, we lost, so let's forget about that. All right, so we're going to rebet, we're going to double, and we're going to spin. We got plenty of money in the bankroll because we're still plus $648, so that's 15 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. Now remember, you can bring it down to base level anytime you want. That's a 33 black. It's another push. So this would be a $72 win, so that would bring us up to 50, 710, 20, I think $720 if we win. Rebet and spin, and we were at 711, so we'll still be way ahead. All right, so we're going to rebet. That's the jackpot numbers, so let's see where we're at. So we're going to rebet, and I'm going to take it down one level. Because I like comps. Oops. I'm going to add one more back to that one and spin. All right, now we're up $720. That was exactly what I predicted. All right, that's an 18 red. All right, that's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 22 black. All right, that's a loss. So we're gonna rebet, we're gonna double and spin. All right, that's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 21 red. That's a push, rebet, and spin. That's a 13 black. Rebet and spin. That's a 16 red. That's another push, rebet, and spin. I think I missed a loss, didn't I? 28 black. That's a push, rebet, and spin. I think I did. They should actually be doubled up again, I think. 6 for black. All right, that's a push. Let's double up because I think I missed one. Spin. It's an 8 black. All right, that's a jackpot number. So let's rebet, and we're gonna come down. Come down that one level and spin. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I missed that. It's a 7 red. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. I got so many break evens, I miss the losing numbers sometimes. It's a 23 red. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 33 black. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 15 black. All right, that's a 0. Rebet and spin. Break even. That's an 11 black. That should be a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 22 black. All right, that's a loss. So we're going to rebet. We're going to double and spin. That's a 26 black. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 1 red. That's a loss. So we're going to rebet. We're going to double and spin. At this point, you should go back to base, or you should just take your money and run. That's a 20, but that's a jackpot number, so we would have missed out on that, so that's not good. You wouldn't want to miss out on that. So we're going to rebet, and we're going to bring it back down. All right, to the 144. Good smart move would be to bring it back to base, but 31 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin, but I like my comps. That's an 8 black. All right, that's a jackpot number. Look at that. Now rebet. Now we're going to bring it back down another level. I'm going to bring it back down to 72. Nice. We're almost over $1,000 in this with this system. That's 29 black. And that's another jackpot. Wow. Rebet. This doesn't happen typically, so don't expect these results every time you play. But they can happen, so. But the results are not typical. 36, okay, we're up $1,044. That's a 22 black, and we're still killing the comps, but there we go. So there's a loss, but rebet, and we're going to double and spin. We're still above at $1,000. I would definitely take the $1,000 and run. That's a 14 red. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. But you're getting a lot of comps right now. Tons of comps. All right, that's a 27. All right, that's a rebet spin. That's a break even. That's a 5 red. That's a jackpot, I believe it is. $72. So we're going to rebet, and we're going to come back down a level. Back down to 36. That's a 21 red. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. Just think about all your comp credits, man. You're getting lots of comps. 18 red. It's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 19 red. It's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 33 black. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 23 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 9 red. All right, that's another break even. rebet, and spin. So the ones to stay away from is 1, 10, 13, 0 and 00, obviously. And 13, 22, 25, and 34. So we're going to rebet, and we're going to double because we just lost, and spin. Now we're up 144. We're still up 1,000. 13 black. All right, that's one of the ones you got to stay away from. So rebet. We're going to double again and spin. Let's get some spins on 144. Let's get some lots of break evens, not losses. All right, so we're going to rebet, and we're going to double it and spin. To 16, that's a break even. Let's get a lot of break evens with this so that we get our comp credits up. That's a 14 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. Now let's get a win. So we can go back down one ladder. That's an 8 black. That's a jackpot number. There you go. So let's rebet and let's go back down because this is getting too high. All right, let's get back down to 144 and spin. It's a 20. That's a jackpot number. That's awesome when you win 2 jackpot numbers back to back. So we'll clear the next one out. All right, back down to $72. Let's get another jackpot number. That's a 19. That's a good number, but it's not a jackpot. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 23 red. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 0. All right, that's not good. So we're going to rebet. We're going to double it. And we're going to spin. All right, so even if we lose here, we're still up $1,000, but we don't want to lose here. 33, that's a break even, rebet, and spin. We want to get a win here. That's an 11, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's 2 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. Getting a lot of 144 unit bets. It's a lot. That's a 7 red. All right, that's a 0. Rebet and spin. That's a 35 black. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 31 black. It's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 4 black. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. It's a 25 red. That's a loss. So we're going to rebet. Rebet and double and spin. $23 red. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. $288 a spin now. That's really good for comps, and there you go. There's the winner. So now we're gonna rebet, and we're going to bring it down one. Bring that back down to 144. Now we're up 1332. That's a 14 red. All right, that's a 0. So we're going to rebet and spin. Not going to jinx myself, but I don't think we can lose our bankroll at this point. 31. All right, rebet and spin. That's a 21 red. All right, that's a 0. Rebet and spin. It's a 12 red. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 15 black. That's a rebet and spin. It's a break even. It's a 3 red. All right, that's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 13 black. That's a loss. So we're going to rebet. We're going to double and spin. Oh, I thought it was going to hit the 0. Thank God it didn't. 2. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. And that's another 2 again. Wow, back-to-back 2s. Could have been back-to-back 0s. That's how dangerous it could be. All right, we're going to rebet and spin. Could have just been as easy as 2 double zeros. 2 zeros. Okay, that's a 25 though. That's a loss. Rebet. And we're going to double and spin. Now hopefully you can do this on a machine. All right, that's a 1. Red. That's a loss again. Rebet and double. I shouldn't have talked so soon. I said I doubt we could lose our bankroll at this point, but maybe I jinxed myself. That's a 35 black. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. We really need a win here. That's a 5 red. I think that is. All right, we got the jackpot. So we're going to rebet. And we're going to take it down 1 level. We should take it all the way down just to be safe now that we're close to getting to our hour. But I'm going to play the whole thing out to see what happens. Spin. I hope this math is right. 1,476. If we get a break even, it should be, yeah, so it's right. Okay, rebet and spin. All right, so we're up $1,400 now, so that's great. That's a 0. That's not good for anyone. All right, so yeah, I should have took it back down to base, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to show you what we can do, if it's a good system or not. 26 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. Kind of hoping that I get the jackpot again. It's a 23 red. Because we're probably almost out of time. Rebet and spin. Ah, oh, that's not good. All right, now we're risking our bankroll. Rebet. Now I think this is our bankroll. This is our bankroll if we lose. That's a 17. We didn't though. We did hit it. Thank goodness. All right. So now we're going to rebet and we're going to bring it back down 1. Should bring it down a couple. If you were smart, you would do that. Bring it down a couple. Don't leave it on 1,152. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna risk the bankroll. I'm gonna bring it down another one. Oh, I think I hit the rebet. I don't know what I did. But anyway, we're gonna go back to base, but we're not gonna stay on base. Yeah, we're not gonna stay on base because we have a lot of money, so we can risk a lot more. But let's not risk as much as that. We're gonna go way down though, way down. We're gonna risk triple. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna risk $72 at this point. All right, because we are way up 19. That is a push, I believe. Yep. So we're gonna rebet and spin. That's a 34 red. All right, that's a loss. See, I'm glad I brought it down. All right, so we're gonna rebet. We're gonna double spin. Come on, we were up $2,000. It's crazy. It's 18 red. All right, that's a push. Rebet and spin. $25 red. All right, that's a miss. Rebet. And obviously, you really shouldn't be risking this. If you're up this high, you should have went back to base and just did it from base. But we want to get the comps. Don't know what the comps would be, but the comps would be awesome. That's a 24 black. We played for, if we play for the full hour, and they rated us at our average bet, it would be very good points. 0, that's a loss. So we're gonna rebet, and we're not gonna risk any more of the bankroll. Let's just spin it here. I'm not gonna risk any more of the bankroll. So we're just gonna bet it here until we win. It's a 15 black. That's a break even, rebet and spin. I'm not gonna risk the bankroll anymore. That's a 4 black. All right, that's a push, rebet and spin. That's an 18 red. All right, that's a push, rebet and spin. That's a 12 black, red. That's a push, rebet and spin. That's a 31 black. That's another push, rebet and spin. That's a 36 red. That's a push, rebet and spin. That's a 16 red. All right, that's another push, rebet and spin. That's a 13 black. All right, that's a loss. So we're gonna rebet, but we're gonna even go get down. Yeah, hold on 1 second. I gotta go back down to 288 because I'm not gonna risk any bankroll at this point. Matter of fact, I'm going lower. I'm gonna go lower. I'm gonna step down the ladder now at this point because I am ahead. So even on losses, I'm gonna step down the ladder. No reason to lose money. 12, okay, that's a push. Rebet and spin. So we're going down the ladder whether we win or lose at this point. That's a 33 black. That's a push. rebet and spin. That's a 4 black. All right, that's a win. That's a break even. So we're just gonna rebet and spin. But we got the jackpot, so that's good. So we're gonna rebet, and we're going down the ladder. All right, spin. We're gonna go down the ladder regardless of wins or losses. 21 red. That's a push. Rebet and spin. That's a smart way to play this at this point, since we're so much ahead. 28 black. That's a push, rebet, and spin, and we're still gaining those comp credits. That's a 6 black. All right, that's a break even, so we rebet and spin. That's a 29 black. All right, that's a jackpot number, so we're gonna rebet and we're gonna go down the ladder. To 36 and spin. That's a 20, that's a jackpot number. So we're gonna rebet and we're gonna go down the ladder again. Down to 18 and spin. That's a 13 black. All right, that's a loss. See, so glad that we did that. Now we're gonna go back down the ladder and start back up at base. All right, and spin. Now we'll go up the ladder when we lose. 12. That's a break even. Rebet and spin. It's a 24 black. That's a rebet spin. It's a 25 red. All right, that's a total loss, so we're gonna rebet. We're gonna go up the ladder and spin. That's a 10, that's a loss again. So rebet, and we're only gonna go up the ladder to a certain point on losses. No sense in taking all these losses. That's 23, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. I'm only gonna go up to 72, that's it. And then we're gonna call it there. That's a 5 red. That's a jackpot number though. Okay, so now we can go back down the ladder. Spin. That's a 34 red. That's a loss. So we're going to rebet and we're going to go up the ladder 1 and spin. $29 black. That's another jackpot number. So we're going to rebet and we're going to go down the ladder. Spin. That's a 10 black. That's a loss. So we're going to rebet and then we're going to go up the ladder and spin. That's a 6 black. It's a break even, so we're going to rebet and spin. That's a 19 red. I think that's a break even. It is. Rebet and spin. a 15 black. All right, that's a 0. We're going to rebet and spin. That's a double 0. That's not good for anyone. So this is my final up piece. After this, if I lose this, I go down the ladder. That's 26 black. That's a break even though. Rebet and spin. Whether I win or lose at this point, I'm going to go down the ladder. 33 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 14 red. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 3 red. All right, that's another break even. So rebet and spin. That's a 16 red. All right, so we're going to rebet and spin. That's a 15 black. That's another break even, so we're going to rebet and spin. Come on, let's get the win. 25 for red. That's a loss. All right, so we're going to rebet, and we're going to bring it down anyway. $36 and spin. That's a double 0. Good thing we brought it down, see? Now we're going to rebet, and we're going to bring it down. Matter of fact, I think that might be a good way to play this game anyway. You bring it down the ladder, whether you win or lose every time, and I think it'll still be profitable and still be very, very good on comps. It's an 11 black. That's a break even. So we rebet and spin. That's a 27 red. All right, rebet and spin. You let me know in the comments below what you think about that idea. And you bring it up, and no matter what, win or lose, you bring it down the ladder. You let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you think. And if you have a different way you'd like to play this, you let me know. How you would conserve on the bankroll? Would you play where if you're up, you'd leave it at the $7, the $9 bet the entire time as long as you're up? Or would you increase on losses up to a certain point and then climb down the ladder after you reach your goal? All right, you just let me know in the comments below. And you got a 4, that was a break even, so let's spin. All right, that's an 11 black, that's another break even. So we're going to rebet and spin. That's a 16 red. It's another break even. So we're going to rebet and spin. That's a 12 red. That's another break even. Rebet and spin. That's a 17 black. That's a jackpot number. Okay, so we're going to rebet, and we're going to bring it down to base. And spin. It's a 15 black. All right, that's a break even. Rebet and spin. I'll be right back. rebet and spin. So 13 black. All right, so we're going to rebet and spin. I'm going to give this one another like 10 minutes, and I'm going to assume the timer didn't go through. Rebet and spin. Actually, that was a loss. No, it wasn't. All right, that's a loss. So rebet. We're going to double, spin. That's a 15 black. It's a break even, rebet and spin. That's an 8 black. All right, that's a jackpot number. So we're going to rebet. We're going to bring it back down the base. And spin. It's a 35 black. All right, that's a break even. So we're just going to rebet and spin. It's a 5 red. That's another jackpot win, so we're just going to rebet and spin. It's a 21 red. It's a break even, so we're going to rebet and spin. It's a 16 red. It's a break even, so we're just going to rebet and spin. All right, that's a 22 black. All right, that's a loss, so we're going to rebet. We're going to double, spin. It's a 4 black. It's a break even, so we're just going to rebet and spin. It's a 27 red. Break even, rebet and spin. It's a 20 black. That's a jackpot number. So we're going to rebet, and we're going to come back down the base and spin. All right, that's it, folks. That's the last of the game. All right, and that was a loss. All right, so that's it, and that's the full hour. All right, and just let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another roulette spin. Thank you, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your week.